Well, again, I'll point to the fact that this is the American release, and
Mm-hmm.
there were some changes made. I can't remember what the original was supposed to have been, but there, it, some of your problems might have come from that, from whatever changes were made for the American
Mm-hmm.
version.
Probably did.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but as it stood for that, um, I thought it was okay. The idea that there was a rogue element there
Mm.
was, yeah, it did drive the plot, or I mean, it kept things exciting, I guess.
Oh, it did very
When
much so.
when they were in that quiet spot, yeah.
Mm. Well, it made for a few very tense exchanges. Do think though that say this is actually a very uh, well uh, sharp detour. Uh, in hindsight, well, once again, oddly enough, the missile subplot reminded me of Goldeneye, uh, the first James Bond film with Pierce Brosnan. Uh, I'll explain why. Uh, well, uh, the plot of Goldeneye involved some kind of Russian space station detonating a nuke in orbit. Uh, this detonation would release effectively an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, effectively disabling all enemy communications. That is a fairly clever idea, but it just can't work in given the historical context. Say, uh, well, Reagan and Gorbachev, they they fell just short of negotiating, well, very progressive reductions of their armaments due to Reagan's insistence on Star Wars, on the SDI and bringing nuclear weapons into space. If that had happened, if well, to have Goldeneye orbit a Russian nuke station orbiting, it implies that Star Wars would have gone ahead on the American side. In that case, there would still have been an impetus for the US and the USSR to keep going, so the Cold War would have still been going, so there would have been no movie. I think the same was true of Godzilla 1985. Say, I just
And
think that the context and the events that occurred before the release of that film really could not have sold a Soviet station, well, a nuclear station in orbit. Just based on the facts, it wouldn't really work.
I think at the time, paranoia would have definitely allowed for it to work with the audience. And in retrospect, very few people would have been able to say yay or nay to it, to its
Mm-hmm.
feasibility or possibility, just
Okay.
because not everyone pays that much attention. Um, so I guess I did find that part worked, though some of it was a little overplayed.
Mm. But it
Um,
worked on a dramatic level, but
right.
just uh, I just don't think the history justifies it.
Also, in this movie, it was depicted that Japan had a plane that could hover and withstand nuclear, yeah, basically nuclear fires. So I
Super
guess I'm willing
X.
to,
Hmm.
yeah, which was a pretty awesome machine there.
It
Uh,
was.
it was simple, and I mean, there a lot of the later films would have something like that, some kind of ship,
Hmm.
even up to the 2004 Go Tango,
Go
based
Tango.
on, or whatever that was called.
It was a Go
Um,
Tango. Yep.
yeah, okay.
And well, the various upgrades on the Super X looked worse from hasty movie to hasty movie. I think by by Godzilla versus Destroyer or Destoroyah, to quote the actual title, the Super X3 looked. I don't mean to sound snide, but it looked only a little better than a Thunderbird.
Yeah, but of course, I still love those machines, however clunky and weird they may get. um, so yeah, do you have any other thoughts on Godzilla 1985?
Nothing really. Although I think you mentioned you found the use of bird calls as a means of thwarting Godzilla to be rather silly. You cited that as rather silly in your 1985 haiku.
Oh yeah.
Care to share any more about that?
I guess to elaborate on the idea, yeah, in the film, for those of you who have not watched it, they found that they could lure Godzilla by simulating various bird calls, and I thought it was silly, but at the same time, if you needed Godzilla to have some kind of weakness or some kind of thing that could be used to influence him, and drive it inevitably to the end resolution, it worked, and they kind of justified it. You know, he's a dinosaur, so his brain kind of responds to the same things.
Yeah.
So I guess I can accept it, but I still find it kind of funny.
Yeah. I only have one more thing to say about Godzilla 1985.
All right.
I think, well, as you said, the miniature work was quite impressive. I would say that Godzilla probably works best as a singular agent in his films. Say, while he's battling other creatures, say, the spectacle can be breathtaking, but it distracts you from the original metaphor. Or it ignores the original metaphor. I think in this case, Godzilla 1985 was quite a thoughtful movie, and it was more effective in capturing the destruction you'd expect from a mutant radioactive dinosaur than most Godzilla films before or even since. I think after Godzilla 1985, GMK was probably the best. It probably came the closest to balancing cool monster action with an intelligent plotline.
Yeah, I do think that as a series, you have to think of it as a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
That the monster fights are really what you come for, and they're what I come for too.
Yep.
So while the metaphor is lost, but at the same time, I enjoy the fights.
Oh yeah.
I will always be around for whenever Mothra makes an appearance. So yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you about Godzilla 1985, Seth.
Yeah, it's brilliant reviewing it with you.
And everyone, remember, drink Dr. Pepper. So long, everybody.
See you later.
Dr. Pepper, nothing better. Yeah. Oh, I still got a headache. Damn.